I'm Mike Bradner, and this is Capital Views, and we have with us today our Commissioner of, well, I was about to say Highways, Transportation and Public Facilities, Marc Luiken. And Mark, first tell us about how we've done on our federal highway program with the federal government.
I think we've done very well. And just to remind the viewers, this program, the actual act is called the Fixing America's Surface Transportation Act, FAST. I think the couple of really good news stories about that particular act is the fact that it is a fully funded 5-year bill, something that we were very hopeful that would actually happen. And so what that does is it gives us some very positive surety about what our funding is going to look like over the next 5 years. And what it will look like is some gradually increasing funding starting at about $508 million in FY16 this year.
Well, first, that's in sharp contrast to the past extensions of the highway program, which were continuing resolutions by the Congress. They were 1-year extensions, and a lot of controversy.
Yep.
So,
well, it created a lot of uncertainty as well, because as you got closer and closer to that, the end of that continuing resolution, we weren't necessarily sure what that funding was going to be, and that made it very hard, very difficult for us to plan, out what our program's going to look like. Now we have some very good predictability over the next 5 years, and I think that will help us with our statewide transportation improvement program, the STIP, and we'll be able to really understand what that funding is going to be for that next STIP.
now you also have things you have to build with general funds, and that's where the rub comes. I mean, they're the most tempting targets if you're going to reduce budget.
Right.
It's hard to reduce federally funded positions. So what kind of outlay does the department make that with general funds that sort of reaches the ground?
Well, what we do, and really the general fund piece of our federal program is the state match requirement, which is roughly 10%. So 10% of $500 million, $50 million for the highway program. Our aviation program is roughly $180 million as well. So, we're looking for around $60 million, that will help us match that federal funds. Because we want to be able to use 100% of our federal funding. That really leverages. 10% leverages a lot of money.
What about roads that don't qualify for federal funding? They take GF.
They do, and for the most part, most of our roads do qualify, but because of the federal process, oftentimes it's a 3 to 7 to 10 year process to follow that federal process, and in many cases we would like to get projects done sooner. That just makes sense, and so in the past, 2008, 2012, the legislature and the people voted for a couple of general obligation bonds, which we still have some funding left that we're looking to distribute over the next few years to have some additional projects. And so those are some of the opportunities outside the program, and we can actually show those projects we can get done in half the time.
You have the ferry system under your wing, and that's has some spears pointed at it. And but the funding for the ferry system, we don't think about somehow that a road should be self-sustaining. And it's sort of a mindset problem that somehow if you're charging a fee like on the ferry system, that somehow the book should balance.
Yeah. Well, and I hope that we have certainly been trying to communicate with our communities that we don't believe that. We recognize it's a pretty expensive way to travel, yet it is a necessary and very important part of our coastal communities' mere existence in many cases, but certainly a very important part of their economies. And so we're looking at how do we best deliver that service the most efficient way we can. Over the last year, we've saved almost $5 million in our operating costs. So those are the kind of things that we're looking at to minimize the cost, yet still be able to deliver service.
Ferry system is expensive, but I would think outside and sometimes very mountainous areas and require a lot of bridge work. There's also segments of road that are atrociously expensive, and if you were going to try to recoup the money, it just wouldn't be possible.
Right.
So.
Well, and I think that's the thing that we are really trying to stress, at least as a department, is not to necessarily compare modes,
Yes.
but really to just focus on, our role is to provide the best possible transportation system to all Alaskans, make it available to everybody. And that's really where we're focused.
And that's what, links Petersburg to Wrangell. They're right next door, but you can't get there
Not by road.
by road.
Right.
And the same in other communities in Southeast. It's, just like in rural Alaska, it's networked by air, and we haven't mentioned that, and we will in another segment, that we have an uncanny diversity.
Yes, we do.
In our road system.
Yeah, well, and our total transportation system. It is, many communities are dependent upon, in many cases, just one mode of transportation. But, we have a lot of communities that we need to serve, and that's what we're really focused on doing.
We even have a ferry, that goes from, I don't know what the distance is, 800 or 900 miles.
All the way up the chain.
Out the chain.
Yep.
And that's an adventure, I'm told, for people to travel.
Well, I just heard that just getting from across the Gulf of Alaska this last weekend was pretty big adventure.
Commissioner, it's been a pleasure to have you. I'm Mike Bradner, and this is Capitol Views, and thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you. Yeah, I look forward to doing this again.